right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know just a second ago, so I was going to give another minute or two, but I really want to be cognizant of everyone's time this morning. This is our first Nuventive training session of the year, and we do have a new look and feel that we'll be going over today in the platform. But if I trip over any of my language or kind of take a second to recalibrate myself, I apologize. I'm still working through some of our changes and updates as well, right alongside y'all. So you are joining us today, this morning, for the Utilizing the Nuventive Improvement Platform for Annual Assessment Reporting. As I said a few seconds ago, this is a good refresher, but it also counts as the required new user training for new users to Nuventive. So the university back in 2018 and 2019 implemented a tool for managing annual assessment reporting, which was the Nuventive Improvement Platform. The purpose of this training is to familiarize you with the platform and teach you how to submit an annual institutional effectiveness assessment report. Completion of the training is required before you're granted full access to your assigned plans or assessment units within the platform if you're a new user. In this training, we're going to cover the assessment and IE process at A&M-Commerce, accessing and navigating the Nuventive Improvement Platform, entering results and plans, and some more procedural items, the basics of the review and approval process, and then have time for Q&A at the end. If we get to the end and your question has not been answered, or if you have a question that you prefer to meet with one-on-one, I'll have time for that as well. So what is institutional effectiveness? Institutional effectiveness is defined as the systematic, explicit, and documented process of measuring performance against mission in all aspects of an institution. A commitment to continuous improvement is at the heart of an ongoing planning and evaluation process. It is a continuous cyclical process that is participative, flexible, relevant, and responsive. So essentially, we are bringing everyone together to work on continually improving and growing our student services, our student support, and their learning. Participation in continuous improvement is demonstrated through identifying expected outcomes, assessing the extent to which these outcomes are achieved, and providing evidence of seeking improvement based on analysis of those assessment results. At A&M-Commerce, every educational program and administrative or student support unit participates in IE by engaging in the annual assessment process. So, assessment occurs in an active, ongoing, and integrated cycle. The cycle begins with identifying expected outcomes and appropriate measures by which to assess those outcomes. Next, methods of assessment are conducted to assess the achievement of the identified outcomes. Once that data is collected, the results are analyzed and used to seek improvements. Finally, we repeat the cycle of assessment to measure again and determine if the implemented changes have had a positive impact on the achievement of the identified outcomes. That's a lot to say to essentially say this is closing the loop. As we participate in the assessment process, it's ongoing and cyclical, as I mentioned. And so that closing the loop is coming back around full circle to see if what we thought worked. And if it did or did not, what do we want to do to change it or improve it? The institutional effectiveness process at A&M-Commerce involves multiple actors. Programs and units that participate in assessment are organized within colleges and divisions overseen by deans and vice presidents. Each college and division has at least one designated IE representative who provides support for assessment planning and acts as the liaison between the college or division IE authors and the Department of Institutional Effectiveness. Department heads and direct supervisors for each department or office provide oversight and guidance in assessment planning and the use of results to seek improvement. One designated faculty or staff member, the IE author, is charged with documenting the assessment plan and annual results for every academic program and support unit. Additional faculty and staff within the area make meaningful contributions or can serve as an additional or secondary IE author, and they support the conducting of assessments, the collection of data, and implementation, of modifications based on the analysis of results. So as I mentioned, A&M-Commerce chose the Nuventive Improvement Platform as our online assessment tool and data repository tool. This platform will replace those PDFs and result forms that were used previously if you've been with us prior to 2019. A few key benefits or features of the platform include the ability to create a digital repository of the assessment data that is easily accessible and web-based. automatically saves entered information and maintains a historical record of that assessment data. I will say the platform, as I'm sure you're familiar with, does not perform the analysis for you on your behalf, but simply houses the data and the information that you put in it to allow us to produce those narrative-driven assessment reports that are required for accreditation and for our own use in providing support and improvements for our students. The system can also easily generate a report of annual assessment results in a clear, easy to read, and concise 2-column format. Here you can see an example of this report. If you've worked with us previously, this is a change from the 4-column report format that this had produced prior to the spring of 2024. This is one of the updates of the new look and feel of the system. So you'll see now that we have 2 primary columns nestled under the student learning outcome or goal information located here at the top. So the reports include a summary of your student learning outcome or goals here in item 1. Results for the reporting period here in item 3. Assessment methods here in item 2, results for the reporting period here in item 3, and then information about how the results are being used to seek improvement here in item 4. The report can be used to document continuous improvement efforts by the program or unit and will satisfy your annual IE reporting requirement. It can also be used for assessment or accreditation reporting needs for external agencies or accreditors. During this training, you'll learn how to enter the plan and results information that populates this report, as well as how to generate a 2-column report. So we're going to actually transition to looking at the platform itself. As we talk through and navigate the functions and features within Nuventive, I'll be showing navigation with the system on my screen here. So I'll switch to a live navigation. I encourage you to log into Nuventive yourself to follow along. If you're in a user training setup in Nuventive, you can log in and follow along as a training user. And if you have your access to your your program or unit already, you can log in and follow along with your program or unit. I'll be showing you how to navigate via the IE access point, although you can also log in through the app in MyLeo. So if you are a new user, as I mentioned, for the purposes of this training, you're only going to have access to sample plans within the system, and your access will be limited to read only. You won't be able to edit any of the information or access the plans for your program or unit that you may come across. And again, that access, if you are a new user, will be granted after completion of this training. For now, though, you can follow along on my screen. So like I mentioned, what I'll be doing is accessing Nuventive through the IE webpage. You can also log in through MyLeo and find the widget there. So whenever you access the tamuc.edu/IE, it will bring you to this page here, and I'm sure you all have that bookmarked and access it daily. But if you don't, Tracy, would you mind putting that link in the chat for people? So Tracy will have our departmental webpage in the chat in just a second for you. So once you've logged in and you've accessed this page, you'll see the Office of Institutional Effectiveness here at the top, and you'll just scroll down to the Nuventive Improvement Platform until you see this gold login button here. I do want to also point out that we have our deadlines and due dates for the 23-24 IE reports located here. So for our IE authors, those 23-24 IE reports will be due September 1st. That will include assessment results for fall 23 and spring 24 and assessment plans for fall 24 and spring 25. So you click that gold login button, it'll bring you to your Duo single sign-on page, and you'll log in through there. If you have any difficulty in logging in through Nuventive, which it looks like I'm going to have here. So this is actually a really kind of excellent opportunity to show y'all something, and I hope this works and just takes one try. I will occasionally encounter this block here. If you're seeing just a white screen on my end, because it's recalling an access point from an old hyperlink. And so this doesn't work for me all the time. So oftentimes what I have to do is go to my history and clear my browsing data for the last 24 hours. kind of clean up that access point that it's trying to work through. And then try it again. Let me see if that provided the solution. Okay, good. Yep, so it looks like that's going to go ahead and work. So if you ever encounter that issue where you're trying to log in and it just gives you a blank screen or a white screen, it's probably because it's trying to access it through a hyperlink or a bookmark that your system is having trouble with. So you can just clear your history. All it normally takes for me is the last 24 hours, and it will kind of clear that up and then try to access it again. If you experience any other issues or questions in accessing Nuventive, go ahead and put them in the chat, and Tracy or Amanda should be able to assist. So once you've logged in, you'll be able to choose which plan you want to view from the drop-down list at the top of the screen. The plans to which you have access will appear in the drop-down list located at the top. If you're assigned to multiple plans like I am, you'll be able to click down and scroll between them. If you're only if you're an IE author for only one plan or unit, you'll see just that one assessment plan or assessment unit located here at the top. If you have multiples, you'll be able to scroll through and access all of them from here. So logging in will take you to the home page for your program or unit. This page shows a summary table that displays information for your assessments and results. The first column here displays each student learning outcome or goal name, and then the corresponding row for each SLO or goal displays information about its assessment methods, results, and actions. The assessment method column totals the number of assessment methods for each SLO or goal. A flag will note any instances in which an assessment method is missing for an SLO or goal. The results column totals the number of results entries for each of those SLOs or goals, and a flag again will note any instance where a result is missing. So you'll see here I have a lot of flags because this is kind of our test instance that I've been building out over time. The next two columns note any occurrences of results marked standard of success not met or inconclusive. Finally, the column for results requiring actions displays any instance in which a result entry requires an action that has not yet been recorded that will be marked by a flag. So again, results requiring actions are required if your standard of success was not met or inconclusive, but are incredibly helpful to include even if your standard of success was met, because it gives you something to look back on, one, to say, here's what we said we were going to do, but two, it also really engages in that closing the loop and the culture of assessment and continuous improvement when you talk about continually making updates, revisions, or improvements to your program. So the summary table is useful for viewing a quick overview of the plan and results information, as well as noting any areas in which information may still need to be entered by the IE author. Filters appear at the top that allow you to filter the information displayed in the table for a specific plan or assessment cycle. So you can go ahead and play with these or use these to really kind of drill down into your report. To navigate to other areas of the platform, you'll utilize this hamburger menu that appears in the upper left-hand side of the screen. Clicking on the menu icon will expand menu options. Clicking on a menu option will further expand that section. Menu options include home, unit or program information, plan and results, plan review approval, mapping, reports, and the document library. We'll look at each of these areas more closely as we progress through the training. Next, we're going to review the general information. From where you are, go ahead and click on the hamburger menu if you're following along. Then click on the program or unit information and select general information to navigate to that page. So you'll find that you're in your general information page now. This page provides basic information about the program or unit, such as the college or division, degree type or support unit type, and the mission statement. This information will be pre-populated in the Nuventive Improvement Platform, but if changes occur, it might need to be updated. So if you've changed your mission statement or been relocated, maybe your college and division has changed. For instance, this is an older college and division. But with this setup, it's difficult to update, but you might have to update your college division, your mission, if anything changes. To edit the general information, click on the vertical ellipses here in the upper right-hand corner, and then click Edit. If you're on a sample unit with us doing this as a new user training, you will not be able to edit that general information page until you've completed the training and been given access to your own plan. If you do make any changes or revisions, maybe especially to the mission statement, just make sure that you've run them by your department or your, direct
Allison,
your department head as needed. Yes.
is there any way you can make your screen larger?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that
Oh,
more?
that's much better. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for checking. Are there any other questions about this information that we've covered so far? Okay, so what we're going to move on next is the
Allison, Allison, you said that on your example, the diamond shape, red diamond shape was a flag. Is that what is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. So on the home screen here, these are considered flags that will alert the reviewer or the author to missing or needed information.
Okay, so if for this coming for 23-24, we probably, I don't know, we probably haven't put information in there. So maybe all of those would have flags.
Potentially, but you'll see here in this, in this sample. So I added the Shakespearean lit as a past example from a past training, but I've added a goal here that has no assessment methods tied to it. You'll see 0. So it's giving me a flag here to say, hey, you have an assessment goal or you have a student learning outcome that you have no assessment methods tied to. So it's alerting me here that I'm missing information. Right here, I have 2 assessment methods, but no results reported. So it's giving me an alert saying, hey, you have assessment methods, but no results. And then down here, one of these results with standard of success not met or inconclusive right here does not have an action plan attached to it. So it's giving me another flag alerting me to a missing action plan. So as of right now, you might have flags on your home screen analytics report. I would have to check on my end. But we will be updating and adding information. So if you have completed your updates or added your assessment results and created your assessment plan and still have flags, we can work through those and figure out what they are. But most flags, if you have them, should be resolved by adding your assessment results for the 23-24 cycle.
Okay, thanks.
Of course. All right, so next we're going to review the assessment plan like I mentioned. So to navigate to your assessment plan information, including your student learning outcomes or goals and assessment methods, we're going to come back up here to your hamburger menu and then come down to plan and results. So the plan and results area is where the bulk of the changes that have been made to the look and feel of the system will occur. So if you worked at Nuventive last year, if you're not a new user for this cycle, you'll notice that this looks pretty significantly different from what you had seen or worked in before. And so this is going to be the part that might take a little bit of kind of finesse on my end as I talk through it, simply because it has changed a bit. So I'm going to do my very best to explain all this to y'all. If you have questions, we are here to answer them because we've had questions too. So we've been working with our support team at Nuventive to make sure that we know how best to organize and present this information. So if you're following along on your end and the sample plan or with your program and unit, again, you're going to come to the main menu, plan and results, and you'll navigate here. So what you'll notice right off the bat is that there is no longer a plan screen and a results screen, right? It's condensed in together under plan and results. So your organization is now really organized under your goals or your student learning outcomes. So in the sample unit, service satisfaction, food satisfaction, food access, location utilization, food budget, etc. These are all the goals for this sample assessment unit. If you're an academic program, you might see there, that Shakespearean lit SLO that I looked at a second ago. You'll see your student learning outcomes in bolded text here at the top. So what you'll see here is your student learning outcome or your goal statement or your student learning outcome statement. This is going to be that kind of longer reference or longer sentence that speaks to really the meat of that goal or student learning outcome. You'll see your goal or student learning outcome status, if it's active or inactive, and then your planned assessment cycle. So you'll know which of these student learning outcomes or goals were planned for assessment for the upcoming cycle. So again, if you're looking to see which ones you need to report on for 23-24, you can just scroll through, see which ones have the 23-24 cycle on there, or you can come up here to your planned assessment cycle, filter by 23-24, and then it will show you only your student learning outcomes or goals that were marked for 23-24. That might help you drill down or focus. If you're someone that does a lot of cyclical assessment, that might help you drill down and focus and make sure you don't miss anything. Just don't forget to remove your filter afterwards. So we no longer have arrows to expand our student learning outcome or goals. So we'll work through all of that as we go on. But if you're editing your student learning outcome or goal, if you're adding a new student learning outcome or goal, it will all occur on this page. So if you want to edit a student learning outcome or goal, you're going to come back over here. We're always orientating with these ellipses here. So you'll come over to those ellipses and click open. And it will open up your goal statement. And there you'll be able to make your edits. Again, the helpful information or the guiding information that we had that previously was those little question marks are now these white circles with the gray eyes. So whenever you click them, they'll give you very similar or the exact same information. They just look a little bit different, but you'll still be able to make very similar edits. So service satisfaction, if we needed to add a word there or change the rate, because maybe we're now looking at satisfaction rate, you can add and make those edits there. You can expand on your statement. Or if you're inactivating or phasing out learning outcomes or goals, this is where you can go in and mark them as phased out. If you are phasing them out, it may be helpful just for historical records to go ahead and add that phase out date so you'll know exactly when they ended. One of those other changes, we used to have a field here that talked about the add or the creation date. That has been removed because we, didn't see it very highly in use, and it wasn't a very substantive item to have on there. So now we only have a record of the phase out date here. So you would go ahead and make your edits and then save if you're looking at editing your student learning outcome. So when we're back on our plan and results screen, if you need to add a new student learning outcome or goal, again, when you're adding something, just always look for the plus signs. If you're never sure where they are, just always look for a plus sign. So if you're adding a learning outcome or goal, you'll come up here to the screen, circle the plus sign. When you hover over it, it will say add goal statement or add SLO. You click on it, and again, it will just give you a blank SLO or goal statement screen. Here, you'll be able to add your goal name. You'll be able to add your goal statement, your SLO statement. If it is new, it's going to be automatically you will want to mark it as active, pardon me. Your planned assessment cycle, if you're adding something new again, it's going to be for your 24-25, because you're adding this for your upcoming cycle. And you're not going to add a phase out date, because if you're adding it, you're not automatically marking it for phase out. When that's completed, you will click save. You'll notice that when I saved it, it made all these other cards, what we're now calling cards, accessible. So if you're adding a new goal or SLO, you would then navigate to your assessment method, right? So we just added this goal, this test goal, test SLO, testing entry. So you would just navigate right over here to your assessment method card, and then you'll see no assessment method has or have been entered. And so click the green plus sign. So you can add that here, or you can access that here. And whenever you click, again, you're just going to get a blank assessment method card. But you'll be able to add that for the plan assessment cycle 24-25. So you would select your status. Again, if it's new, it's going to be active. Your assessment method type. This list has not changed or been edited. We do have this resource over here in the right-hand viewing pane, definition of assessment method types. That if you click on it, because maybe you're not sure if you are looking at an embedded exam question or a comprehensive exam, you're kind of going back between the two to see maybe it's one or maybe it's the other. We have this definition resource. It's very helpful. You can zoom in on it there, and it provides definitions of all of the assessment types that are located in this drop-down menu. So if you're kind of torn, like I said, between the different types of exams, or if this is maybe a jury performance or a field observation, you can go through, see those definitions, and it will help you drill down and determine what type of assessment you are conducting. Here in this assessment method field, again, this is heavily text entry, but this is where you're really going to describe exactly what you're doing. So this is, again, where I always talk about if you win the lottery and don't come back to, campus tomorrow, first off, no one will blame you. But secondly, we really want to have that information here so that whoever takes over this work knows what was happening and knows what needs to be done. So in your assessment method, you would include what is assessed, who administers the assessment, who is assessed, a description of the measure, when it's administered, and where it's assessed. So when we talk about what is assessed, we want to know what skill or what competency or what knowledge are you trying to assess? Is it the program coordinator? Is it the instructor of record? Is it the GA? Who administers the assessment? Who administers the assessment to the students? Who is assessed? Is it students in psychology 403? Is it graduating students? Is it students that are, involved in an internship, or maybe only first generation students? A description of the measure. So that's really where we're talking about what we're looking for here, or what is occurring. When and where it's assessed, right there, we're not talking necessarily about on May 1st in 2024, the exam is going to be given, because that date might change. But we're talking about instead prior to graduation, or after the completion of the capstone assignment, or after the completion of the internship. Again, we're providing that context and that information for not only ourselves to know what we're doing, but those who are not going to be familiar with our processes to know what we're doing as well. So this is really that opportunity to describe exactly what we're doing. Then you come down here and add your standard of success. This is that quantitative metric or measure that we're using to determine if we have or have not met what we're wanting to do or achieve what we're wanting to achieve. So your standard of success should be aligned with your assessment method and related to the type of data collected. For example, if you're administering a survey, you might look for 85% of students will rate the service received as good or excellent. If you're using a rubric to grade a capstone assignment, you might say something like 70% of students will be rated a 3 out of 5, or maybe 3 or higher on the rubric that's used to, assess the assignment, or whatever that is. It's that quantitative metric that you're going to be able to go back to and refer to see if you've met or changed it. Now, this note section is not required, because you'll notice it doesn't have an asterisk next to it. So these asterisks are all required elements, but the note section is really helpful for documenting changes over time to your assessment method or standard of success. So I tend to recommend that people use this space for if you're changing your standard of success, or maybe your assessment method used to occur, like I said, in psychology 403, and that class has since been archived, and now it's occurring in psychology 404, but the assessment itself hasn't changed. It's just where it's occurring. You can keep that historical record in the notes. So again, it's a helpful reference for you, but it's also very helpful for anyone else that comes along behind you to know what you did and where it occurred. If you have any documents that you would like to add, you can do that here by adding a document. Those documents might be rubrics that are used, might be copies of blank tests, any kind of reference document that you might find helpful in remembering or keeping in mind the assessment method that's being conducted. In this section and in the results where you can add documents as well, please do not add examples of student work. We cannot have in the system examples of student work, even if the name, CWIT or whatever has been redacted. We cannot have those in the system. If you have those, or if you know that you have some hidden in here, or kind of not hidden, but maybe saved in your record somewhere in Nuventive, please let us know, or please go ahead and remove those. This is meant to house only examples of the assessment records themselves. So once you've updated that, you've added your, beautiful new assessment method, you have that fully built out, everything is going. What did I miss the build? Oh, I missed the build here. All right. Once you have all of your information added, you'll notice that it caught me when I tried to move on without adding information for an asterisk item. You're able to save it. And now if I were to close out and go back, you'll see that I can now see my new sample assessment method here for my new goal. So that's how you would go ahead and add a goal statement or an assessment method. If we close out again, because this is within the individual goal or student learning outcome card, because this is only related to one goal or SLO. But if you close here, you'll go back to your assessment plan screen where you're able to see all of your student learning outcomes. And if we scroll down, we'll be able to see that new test entry that I just added. So once you're on the screen, again, if you wanted to go back in and access that, what I want to point out is that it may not be automatically intuitive. And I'm working with our support team to see if we can better figure out how to make it more clear where to click or what to click. But if you want to edit your goal or your SLO, you can either, access the ellipses over here and click open, or you're also able to simply double click the goal or SLO name. So that bolded text, and it will bring you back into your cards. So here's your goal statement card. that assessment method card that I just added, if I had multiple assessment methods, they would all stack underneath it here. So I'd be able to see every assessment method tied to that goal or student learning outcome. But you're also able to access your results card. So previously we had had all of our results located on another screen. They're now all organized and tied to each individual goal or SLO. Before I move on to talk about the results, are there questions about the goals, the SLOs, or the assessment method creation or editing that I can answer?
I just had one. I noticed because I'm looking inside of mine right now as we're going through it, and one of our goals last year was specific just DEI. That's really all it was maintaining DEI.
Uh-huh.
Do we just kind of obviously not move that to this year, or can we edit that to maybe say something different but similar? Or is there a way we can just kind of leave it to last year and we just don't replace it with anything?
Yeah, so if it is not marked for assessment for the upcoming cycle, like marked for either results entry for the 23-24, or it's not added to the assessment plan for the 24-25, we won't be looking for assessment results for that goal necessarily. If in discussions with Jim, y'all determine that that's no longer a goal that y'all are going to be pursuing, or it needs to be replaced with something else, we can go in and mark the goal itself as inactive because we don't want to remove it. We never want to remove data from the system, but if we mark it inactive or archive it, that will let you know and any other reviewers know that this had been a goal that had been previously assessed and measured, but is no longer being assessed and measured. And so I think, are you and I scheduled to meet next week?
Yeah, at some point. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And I have those dates in my head, but they're escaping me right now. But yes, whenever we meet and look at that, we'll take a look at how to archive that. Or if y'all need to add or want to add another kind of equity-based goal for the athletes, we can look at how to word that and add that there too.
Okay, cool, perfect. I just noticed when I looked at this year, some had disappeared, I guess, compared to last year. So I was like wondering where they went.
Yeah.
Then it made sense.
Yes. Yep. Perfect.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. Any other questions over adding or editing goals or assessment methods?
I have a question that's not exactly specific to this, but it did come up while you were talking about this page.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to verify, you had mentioned on the main plans and results page to make sure if you add a filter to that planned assessment cycle, that you remove it afterwards. So do any of the filters that we add up there, are they retained between sessions?
That's a good question. It looks like they are. So I added a 23-24 one. Let's come in here and make an edit. Close. Yep. So it looks like they're still up here. Now this text is bigger than it has been in the past, and there's fewer filters up here. So it should hopefully stand out a little bit more if you do have a filter added. But again, if you get in here and you're like, yikes, just like Sarah's talking about, like, I know I had way more goals and SLOs than I see on here, check for your filters first. But it does look like if you add a filter, edit something, and then come back out, that will be retained. So you would just want to make sure if you feel like you're missing information that your filters are removed first. And then if you're still missing information, reach out to us because we want to help you get that back if we can. But yes, it looks like adding a filter will be retained. So you'll just want to be cognizant of any updates there that need to be tracked or made.
Thanks. And I will say, I actually went and tested it a little bit more on my end. I signed out and signed back in, and one of the filters I'd added was still there. So even if you sign out, I don't know if it lasts like a day or a week after signing out or something like that, but it is sticky.
Okay, perfect. That is very good to know. Thank you, Dalton. All right, so if you are adding or editing results, let me just say at this point in the IE cycle, it is very unlikely that you would be editing results because you likely haven't added them yet. We do not edit or want to edit or remove any past or current data. So like we're just talking about if you're phasing out a goal, an SLO, an assessment method, anything like that, we never want to remove them. We always just want to mark them as phased out or inactive. And so, right here, assessment method active, you would just mark it inactive. Again, for that goal or SLO, instead of removing it, it would just be marked phased out. So we always want to keep that really good, rich historical data that looks at and tells us where we've been, so it helps us focus on where we want to go. So if you're adding a assessment result, which is where you'll probably be, again, you're going to come into your plan on results screen and it's all organized by your SLO or goal. So each of these white boxes, each of these cards is a single SLO or goal. Remember, so we went in, accessed, and double click those. So again, to add a result statement or a result entry, you can double click on the name here or come over and open. You'll come back to your cards, you'll see your goal card, your SLO card, your assessment method, and then down here on the end, you'll see your results card. So you would click on that. And so you'll see here that for assessment goals or SLOs that have multiple results, they'll be stacked on top of each other here. In numerical order, I believe, by cycle rather than by edit date. So if for any reason you did come back in and edit a 2019-2020 assessment result, maybe, you're adding some additional insight, or you and I worked on something for the SAC-COC reaffirmation report that you want to go back in and add as context, I believe it will still be organized like this by cycle. So as you're coming in here and you want to add an assessment result, again, we're always looking for a plus sign. So you're going to find that green circle, the plus sign. When you hover over it, it's going to say add results. You'll click there and it'll give you a blank result entry screen. One of the things that's really helpful is that you'll be able to see here more clearly than how this was previously set up what your SLO or goal is. So up here it says our service satisfaction rate, and then your standard of success. Before this was a little bit hidden and now it's a little bit more intuitive. So as you're adding your result entry, it's very easy to see that you're adding your results for the service satisfaction rate, SLO or goal, and your standard of success is that 95% of survey respondents will indicate they are satisfied or very satisfied with the services that they receive at the on-campus dining location. So this information will help you build out your results entry. If for any reason you want to hide it, you can click here and hide details and then expand those later on. So one thing that hasn't changed is that your results entry will automatically date itself with the date it's created. If for any reason you need to change that, or it's important that it has another date to it, you can click in that box and select a different date. Your reporting period will be a drop-down list like it has been in the past. And so what we'll be looking for due September 1st is going to be results for the 23-24 cycle. So you'll select the result entry here at the top, or pardon me, the result period here at the top. So that's going to be our most recent result period. This results entry area right here is really, again, the meat of what we're doing in this card. So in your results entry, you want to provide a detailed description of results that includes the number assessed, descriptive data, and analysis and interpretation of results. If you've attended some of the training sessions, or maybe the assessment of storytelling session that I did last week live, you'll know that a lot of our work and a lot of the professional development that we've been focusing on this spring has really been centered around building that narrative and that really narrative-rich story of assessment in our journey within assessment. That is a huge part of your results entry here. So in your result, we don't want to just say 50% of students pass the test, because that doesn't tell us very much. Why was it only 50? For this sample standard of success, 50 is significantly below 95. What happened? What occurred? What caused that drop? This is that chance or that opportunity to really explore and share insight into what occurred. Because again, it's really important to keep in mind, exactly what you did and all the amazing things that you have accomplished. But people reading this, or people who are not familiar with the day-to-day function and work of your job, will not have that same insight. So this result entry screen and this result entry box is that opportunity to build that narrative. Tell us about the students. Tell us about what happened. Tell us about the services that were provided. If you primarily work with faculty and staff, that service and that support is just as important. So tell us about that. Give us that really rich insight into what occurred. When you're talking about the number assessed, again, if we're looking at maybe 50% passed or 50% responded, is that 5 out of 10, or is that, 500 out of 1,000? What is 50%? What's that total in, or that number assessed, or that participated? That analysis and interpretation, again, is really important because that data, the data is data, but data with analysis and interpretation becomes usable information. So we really want to have that really rich, good, usable information here in this result entry. You'll scroll on down to your conclusion findings. So this would be standard of success not met, inconclusive, or standard of success met. One thing I want to kind of clarify is that inconclusive should only be selected if the assessment was either not conducted or if the results were unable to be collected. So that genuinely represents a lack of data if you select inconclusive. If you conduct your assessment and maybe students didn't respond like how you expected them to, or they performed worse than you thought they were prepared, and you didn't meet your standard of success, that would be standard of success not met, which again is perfectly fine, right? Like standard of success not met doesn't mean we failed. We just found a way that maybe didn't work as well. And it gives us that springboard of that opportunity to analyze and find other ways that we want to accomplish this or come at it. So you would select your conclusion, standard of success not met, inconclusive, or met. If you implemented an action plan or modification the prior year, describe the impact it had on the results. So let's say, for instance, last year, your action plan use of results talked about adding a new textbook for your class. In this space, you would be able to describe the impact that that textbook had on the class and the student learning outcome itself. For a survey, if you talked about maybe moving from a paper-based survey to a digital survey, or maybe administering the survey more frequently, or maybe, you're looking at like learning comprehension on the part of faculty and staff with a training service that you're offering. And so you decided to change your training schedule. That's what you wanted to do last year, was you change your training schedule. You can use this space to talk about the impact that change made. So how did the textbook impact your class? How did the change of the training schedule impact the learning? How did the digitization of that survey impact the collection of your results and the satisfaction rating? Because again, those amazing things that you're doing, but this is that space to share it with others. And then here, your action use of results, again, is really the meat of what we're doing. This will be describing how the results will be used, including actions being taken, modifications to unit operations or services being made. This is where you would talk about those changes that you want to make. What's really important here is identifying, again, the who, what, when, where, and why. Because if you were to win the lottery and leave and you want to add a new textbook, whoever comes in and looks at this information may not know what textbook you want to add, may not know when that changes are being anticipated, how that will be included on syllabi, that type of information. So it's not only to use for prosperity's sake, to help kind of remind yourself, but also to explain your action and how you're going to use those results for people that are not familiar with it. A really good action use of result entry will give you some really rich information to come back on for next year's implementation discussion here. So the more information you provide in each of these places, the richer the discussion is for the next year's. Finally, here in the related documents, you can add documents again. And so you can add those by clicking on this green plus sign. In the related documents or the results entry, the documents that you might add there, again, it could be a rubric or, example of a test, but you might have charts or graphs that you've used to track trend over time and student completion rates maybe, or in service satisfaction, you might have, some qualitative feedback that you want to upload from your Qualtrics surveys, whatever that might be. You can add those items here to help support and reference your findings in your results discussion. Once you've added those documents, they'll show up here as hyperlinks. So I know I've talked about this right-hand viewing pane a bit, and primarily with the definitions of assessment methods when we were looking at our assessment method description. We also have in here as a resource for our support units, a taxonomy, a goals document. And so this will be very similar to the Bloom's taxonomy resource that's available for academic programs, but it just goes through that kind of richer information about identifying action verbs to talk about as you describe your results or your SLOs or goals. But also very helpful is going to be the rubric. And so there's a rubric available for both our academic programs and our support units. And so this is the rubric that is used by reviewers to provide feedback for our academic programs in our support units in the reviewer feedback section that we'll look at in just a minute. So as you're looking at this rubric, and I'm going to try to zoom in on it, you'll be able to see here each rubric item for the goals or SLOs, assessment methods, results, and action use of results. And these can help guide your goal or SLO creation, assessment method creation, results discussion, that type of thing. For instance, on goals or SLOs, we're going to be looking for goals or student learning outcomes that are concise, clearly worded, detailed, and limited in scope. We don't want goals or SLOs that are bundled together. And so as you're maybe adding new goals or SLOs, each of these items will help you kind of build or create really strong SLOs or goals, because this is what will be looked for by the reviewers. And the results, very similarly, we're going to be looking for results that are dated during the reporting year, results that are aligned with goals or SLOs, assessment methods, and the standard of success. So if your goal or SLO measures, student satisfaction with on-campus services, it's administered through a survey, and then your results discussion talks about a capstone exam, there's a very serious lack of alignment there. And so that's something that a reviewer would come back and probably catch and ask you to please make sure that you added the right result entry for the correct assessment method there. We want our population and sample size identified, so the number assessed. So again, when I was talking about our descriptive data and looking at percentages, it's really important for us to know, what is 50%, what is 95%, what percent of your total population does that represent? You want to provide descriptive data, so that head count, the percentage, the average, median, mode, etc. That supports a really clear, concise, objective, and substantive discussion of your results. Objective and substantive are important here because when we are talking about our student learning outcomes or our goals discussion, we do want to maintain objectivity and really just present the information as factually and bias-free as we can. We also want the discussions to be substantive because, again, I know I keep saying it, but you know what you're doing and those amazing things that you're accomplishing. Other people may not. So that substantive discussion allows people insight into what you're achieving. We want our results, conclusions identified correctly and aligned with the results provided. And then any essential or relevant documentation to be uploaded. So that would be in that discussion or in that documentation. Same thing for our actions, use of results. So action plans presented when they're required, such as when standard of success is not met or inconclusive. But again, you can add actions, use of results at any time because they really help provide that rich closing the loop narrative. We want actions that are based on assessment results, and assessment results are cited in the action. So identifying and creating that alignment between the results and what we're going to be doing. We're looking for actions that are aligned with the goals or SLOs, action plans that are specific and clear. Again, who's responsible, what's being done, when will it be implemented, etc. And then the report clearly demonstrating closing the loop. And so again, that's that cyclical nature of institutional effectiveness and continuous improvement, where we bring it all back around to talk about how this will impact our students. All right, so I'm just going to close out of this and not save my changes because I did not make any changes or updates here, but I do want to point out that when I tried to leave without saving, it did catch me. If you click OK, it almost feels like a double negative here. It's saying you have unsaved changes on the page. Click OK to leave without saving. So if you click OK, that will take you out without saving your changes. If you need to save your changes, you click cancel, and it will bring you back to that results area. So now we're back out in our results. So we can see, I did not add that 23, 24, but if I had, you would see that stacked here on top. So before I go on to a few of the other items in the menu, in our last 10 minutes or so, are there questions about adding or editing results that I can review or answer?
Allison, Rachel asked a really good question as a direct message, and I think it would be good for the whole group, and that has to do with which cycle do the summer sessions fall into? So how would you answer that?
It's okay. And it's just asking which cycle?
Yes.
Okay. So in the reporting period here, it talks about for data collected during the summer term, include that with the academic year that follows. So for 23-24, we're looking for our fall 23, spring 24 data. So, depending on whenever you get that added, if your data is assessed and collected by September 1st and is able to be added, you can add it there and just notate it as the summer data. If it isn't, you can add that with that academic year that follows. A lot of our assessment descriptions or results data tends to rely, as y'all know, very heavily on our kind of long terms, the spring and fall terms. And so that summer, depending on when it's collected, you can add that in when it's complete. So if you have it completed, pardon me, I know that was a little ambiguous. If you have it completed by that September 1st, you can go ahead and add it to your 23-24 cycle, just identify or differentiate it. And if not, then add that to that following academic year. All right, so what we're going to look at really quick is the related documents, is the review, approval, and the reports in the document library. So if you want to review feedback that's been given, maybe you've completed the assessment reporting, your department head has come in and asked for some revisions to be made, you'd be able to come in and view those by going to plan, review, approval, and then navigating to the assessment role that you've received the feedback or request for revisions from. I know that this is an older, fake cycle, but if this had been updated, for our 23-24 report, you'd be able to come in and see here the revisions that were requested, navigate to your ellipses, and then click view or print. And that will allow you to review the completed rubric from that reviewer role. In there, you'd be able to find the revisions that have been requested and navigate through, find that feedback or those comments, and then come back to your plan and results to complete those updates. Unfortunately, at this time, Nuventive does not support communication or pushes within the system. So any requests for revisions or communications around completing a requested revision needs to be done through, regular school email. If you want to save those for any reason, you can save them in here, but unfortunately, those communications do not occur at the Nuventive. Another really important element of the Nuventive Improvement Platform is mapping. So we'll go through that in just a minute or two. They did not update that. So mapping aligns and creates our marketable skills map and your college or division map. And so marketable skills for our academic programs or support units that have student learning outcomes that work with student support services will map to and align with marketable skills that support their individual learning outcomes or goals. So your learning outcomes or goals will be located here on this axis, your kind of top x-axis across the top, whereas the marketable skills will be located here on your y-axis, career management, critical thinking, problem solving, digital technology, etc. And so the map essentially exists for you to create and identify very clearly that alignment between where your learning goal, your learning outcome, your goal supports the skill attainment. So if we were looking at program review coordination, for example, and let's say it did align with the attainment of the career management skill as it's defined here, to create that mapping intersection, you would simply click in the cell, it will turn green and have a white X, and that would demonstrate to you that mapping has occurred, and we're saying that yes, this learning outcome or this goal here supports the attainment of these skills. And so for a lot of you that are inheriting existing assessment units, this would already be completed. It might be helpful for you to go in and double check it. If you're working on a new goal or new assessment unit, this will probably not be complete. So I would recommend going ahead and sitting down with your department head or your direct supervisor and identifying those assignments or those alignments. Again, it's going to be the same thing for the college or division level strategic plan. So you're going to want to create that alignment or mark that alignment where your learning outcomes support the different goals of your strategic unit. So for example, this goal 1, provide a transformative and experiential education that prepares students for a rapidly changing world. If for some reason our program review coordination supported that goal, again, we would click there to show that alignment between what we're doing and what it supports. And this is some really important information that we can come back to and refer to when we're looking for programs or units that support or align with strategic planning elements for reporting. Any questions on the mapping element before I move on? Okay. So something that I think y'all will find very helpful is running reports. So this would create that 2-column report that I showed earlier. If you have been working in Nuventive before, you're going to be familiar with the 4-column report and all the filters that went into creating that report. This has been simplified and streamlined. So whenever you want to run a report, you would just come up to your main menu and navigate down to reports. It will automatically generate a recent version of your 2-column report. So you'll see here that it will automatically title it with the name of your assessment unit. And then again, create here your report. So you'd have your goal or your learning outcome here at the top. This one is marked phased out, but if it was active, it would reflect active. It would have your planned assessment cycle data right there. And then all of your assessment methods and the results over time stacked on top of each other in individual cells. If you have multiple assessment methods for a single SLO or goal, you'll find those stacked similarly to this, where it's very clear that they are multiples for a single SLO or goal. So you won't have, duplicates of your goal. It'll be headed. There will be a header similar to this with your assessment methods in this left-hand column stacked on top of each other. If you do need to add some additional filters, you can come over here to select filters. It's going to look like this little image here. And you're able to filter by goal status. So right now it's going to be automatically set to active. If you want to look at all goal statuses, you can clear that. Assessment method, it's going to be set to active. If you want to look at all of your assessment methods, you can remove that. You can also specifically review certain reporting periods here if you only want to look at certain pieces of historical data, or if you only want to look at standard successes or assessment methods that were not met or were inconclusive, you can change your conclusion identified here and then rerun your report, and it will generate a new report for you over here. So this will be an updated, complete, all assessment methods for all time type of report. And then you can have a slightly more drilled down report over here on the right. Are there any questions about running reports? Okay, one of our final items is the document library. So I had referenced that a bit, but talking about adding related documents to the assessment results or assessment methods. Your document library is where those documents related to the assessments will be housed along with reference and help materials for assessment. Again, to navigate to your document library, you just come up to your main menu and then come down to document library. You're going to find folders for historical documents, i.e. resources, supporting documents, and then some few other folders as necessary or as have been added. The historical documents folder, if you are an assessment unit that was at the institution prior to the 1819 cycle, will have some historical IE reporting in here. So for instance, you might find your 1819 IE results, your 1920 assessment plan. IE resources will house some resource documents that we've added over time, and your supporting documents folder will house documents that you have added over time. You're also able to add additional folders if you want to for any reason. You'll see here that I've added some about strategic planning and then a test folder. To add a folder, you would come over to this little icon here with the plus sign, add a folder. You can name it whatever you want. Click save, and then it'll add your new folder down here. So if you want to create a specific folder, maybe to house rubrics or anything like that, you are able to do that and house those there. All right, so I know we only have a few minutes left, but we will wrap up quickly. So the IE review and approval cycle is really multi-layered and ensures the timely submission of quality assessment reports that can be used to document student learning outcomes, support services, and institutional effectiveness. The IE process begins with the IE author over here entering the annual assessment results and updating the assessment plan for the upcoming year. That then moves on to a concurrent review by the college or division IE representative or the department head and direct supervisor who reviews the annual IE assessment report, completes their review rubric, or maybe makes any request for revisions. If it is approved or if those revisions are requested, they'll contact or should contact the IE author for more information or to let them know it has been approved and is moving forward, and then marks their final review decision. This is also date determinant, and so we have asked that our reviewers at this level complete their review by September 15th. After September 15th, the Dean VP will review the assessment report, and so that's why it's also really important that this communication occurs. If revisions are requested, those are communicated back to the author who makes those and then lets the department head or direct supervisor know that they're available, so that by the time the Dean or VP reviews the assessment report, all those updates or changes have been reflected and recorded in the system. The Dean VP will review that annual assessment report and then approve or request revisions. And they'll mark a final review decision as approved or not approved. And then that will go on to a final stage where they'll be housed by the IER department. Again, to log in, you would access or look for that gold Nuventive login button. But the Department of Institutional Effectiveness is your resource and support center for assessment. To assist you in your use of the Nuventive Improvement Platform for annual assessment reporting, we have included a number of helpful resources and we are working on updating these. You can visit the tamuc.edu/IE to access those resources. For using the Nuventive Improvement Platform, we have several items here. This should reflect an updated date of 23-24, but this will align with the training that I'm offering later in May and June that is specific to completing your annual IE reporting within Nuventive. We also have a user manual and reviewer manual and training videos available. For assessment, we have individual and specific assessment resources, so instructions for annual assessment reporting, a few report examples, and then internal and external assessment resources that will cover things such as writing student learning outcomes, writing goals, identifying strong assessment methods, and other trainings that we've offered. Again, to log in, here's that gold Nuventive login button. So you can visit the IE webpage at tamuc.edu/IE. If you have questions, you can email us at ie@tamuc.edu. All of our IE team has access to that inbox. Or feel free to call any of us. My extension is 5942 if you'd like to reach out to me directly. But all of IE is here to assist you, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you ever have any questions that we can help with. Here at IE, we also evaluate our own services, so we are focused on continually improving ourselves and our offerings. So if you don't mind completing this evaluation of the training by using your smartphone to scan this link, or let me see. Oops. I'll work with Tracy to get that link put into the chat here in just a minute. If you don't mind scanning that, providing feedback, letting us know what worked well for you, what didn't, what you might need down the road, or what would be helpful for us to cover, that helps us improve our own services and offerings as well. So I'll leave that up for just another few seconds, and then I will stop sharing my screen and be available if anyone has any specific questions for the Q&A section. And I apologize, we went over by about 3 minutes, but I really appreciate y'all sticking with us and attending the session this morning.
Thank